So welcome back to As Told by You. We are joined today by somebody I've been trying to get on the podcast for several months, and she's been so busy, and I appreciate her making time for us for the podcast. Aditi Bussells is a city council person.
Yes.
Is that right? And we're going to kind of talk about what you do here and what does that even mean, and talk about our little city and what we're doing here. And so kind of tell us what you do and kind of what is all of this that you're up to.
Yeah. Well, hello, listeners. I'm Dr. Aditi Bussells. I'm the at-large councilwoman for the city of Columbia. What that means is I represent the whole city on council. And if there's one motto you've probably seen on my social media, it's that all politics are local. And what I mean by that is probably it's your local elected officials, whether it's your school board, your city council members, your county council members, that impact your life the most. On city council, we are looking at things like, improving our infrastructure, providing basic services like water and sewer, bringing in economic development into the city, looking at ways in which we can maybe address some of the gaps we're seeing in terms of food access or providing more affordable housing. So things that affect your everyday life. And I have been on council now for 4 years, and it has been really exciting to see the energy and just the momentum that we're seeing around some of the work that I've been doing to make Columbia a very vibrant, exciting place that people choose to live in over other places. And I think that's what's key.
That's awesome. We run across a lot of people on the podcast that have chosen to come here or come back here. So they've gone somewhere else. They graduated college or whatever and went off and sought their fortune in the world and then came back here. What is it you think is an attractor of people to Columbia?
That's a great question. So I was not born and raised here. I grew up outside of the DC area and came here for school, got my PhD at the University of South Carolina. And one of the reasons I stayed was I really love that there's this 1 degree of separation in Columbia. If you have a dream or an idea, whether it's a business or a community project or you want to run for office, you are 1 degree away from finding someone to help make that happen. So that Columbia magic is what I call it, is really what I think is special. There's a lot of opportunity here to implement new innovative things and kind of move Columbia forward in that way. And so I was very much attracted to that. But that being said, I'll be honest, I did not like it when I first moved here. I moved here and it was the 1,000-year flood about a week later.
Oh, wow.
And so to not know anybody, to be living in an apartment, being new to the South, and the specific dynamics of the South that's very different than the Mid-Atlantic, it was a struggle. And so I empathized with a lot of young professionals and folks that want to stay here after graduation. We are not where we can be, but I believe we can get there in terms of having a really great talent retention approach and building our quality of life to be so that you can leave your house, walk and grab coffee and walk to work. Yeah. And that's kind of the vision that I've really brought on council and hope to continue to work on.
My experience of the flood, as somebody who's lived here a while, was that it was something that for those of us that I guess were here, it really brought people together in a lot of ways that they hadn't been before. And I remember we did the Gervais Street Bridge Dinner. Was the first bridge dinner was like a week after or something. I mean, like very, very soon afterwards. And there was a real sense in that time that this was something we had to work through as a community. And I remember that feeling of kind of it bringing us together. So I think that's an interesting landmark, that flood, and the way that it sort of galvanized people. So what do you do otherwise? I guess you don't make a living as a city council person. So tell me about.
Yeah, and I will add there that one of the biggest deterrents, and I've been very vocal about this to young people serving in office, is that it is a part-time job, and here we get paid $20,000 to do it, and it could very easily be a full-time job if you are answering constituent calls. We don't have a full staff, and so I'd like to see that change so I can encourage more folks, particularly in the public serving fields like public health and social work, step up and run. But when I'm not on city council, I'm a mom to a 2-year-old. He is the joy of my life. I'm the wife to a nurse practitioner at the local health system here that serves our community very well and is prior military. So we met while he was stationed in D.C. And then I work for Deloitte, and I was recruited to Deloitte. It was the stars aligned right after I ran for office and won, and I have been supporting a lot of the federal health work that Deloitte does. I really like the model, and I'd like to see more folks use this model. My office is completely remote, right? My clients are typically out of the DC area, and the closest office to me is Charlotte. But we have learned that there are a lot of folks that are commuting to where they need to go, but they're keeping their roots and frankly their money in Columbia. We have a great airport. We have major cities, very close by. And so I hope that more folks use that model of working for these larger firms and staying in Columbia.
Yeah, that's awesome. What brought you to want to run for office? What
was the motivation?
What would motivate a person to do that?
Well, I think I'm not one to just sit and complain. I have to do something about it, whether it's, my whole class getting detention in 4th grade and we didn't deserve it, and me storming into the principal's office and being like, we don't deserve this and this is why. And he was just so impressed that I came to take the fall for everyone that he was like, no one gets detention. I think that's just innately in me that I can't just sit around. We have to change something. And so I never thought I'd run for office. It was COVID. I was very vocal about some of the challenges we were seeing about small businesses closing, not getting enough testing kits, not having enough masks. This was at the height of COVID. And I think being vocal about that and communicating about data in a way that was not intimidating, taking these very complex public health topics and helping people be able to talk about it that don't have that background, inadvertently kind of built me a platform in the city as someone who's able to help people use data-driven decision making. And so I was actually encouraged by my predecessor who had decided not to run. She said, you should think about running for office. And the first thing I said to her was, well, I'm not from here. And she's like, it doesn't matter. She's like, you live here now, you care so much about the community, and we need people like you. So that was kind of the motivation. And I often say to people, why not? Why not more people that understand data, that understand a new perspective on the different issues that our cities are facing? You don't typically see epidemiologists run for office. And I do think that outside and unique perspective has been especially beneficial to the city.
Yeah, that's awesome. I guess Stephen Oliver is a council person
for Forest
Acres, but you're the only other political person we've had on the podcast. And
well, if you want to go deep into the archives, we had the other guy who was running for mayor when we were at Calhoun Street.
Who's
season 2?
Who was that?
Sam something.
Oh yeah, that's right. Holland.
There you go.
Yeah, so that's right. But he wasn't a politician at the time.
Well, he was running for office.
Yeah, I guess so. That is interesting. So tell me what do we need in Columbia? What is it that we're, I feel like I've been here, I have lived here since 96. So what is that? 29 years? Is that right? No, it's more than that. Anyway.
96?
Yeah, it's 29 years. So in that 29 years, we've always been almost there.
Yeah.
It's felt like we were almost there for that amount of time. Malfunction junctions being repaired right now.
You say almost there. Where are we supposed to be going?
Well, that's what I'm wondering. What is the where's the destination? What do we need here to get us there?
I mean, I'd be interested to hear your perspective being here for 29 years. For me, it's I like the way that you said that we're almost there. Oftentimes, I think we ourselves are our biggest deterrents to being the best that we can be. I don't want to be Greenville. I don't want to be Charleston. I want to be our own identity, which is why I championed a lot of our rebranding. And, I could tell the staff was really annoyed with me when I first suggested it. I was like, how we message, how we brand. Do we have a brand kit for the city? No, we don't know what that is. What? So how are we selling the city to potential investors or students that are coming here? So we went through that process. We unveiled the first ever logo. But for me, it was more than a logo. It was really a symbol for the pride that we should have and often sell ourselves short. I always joke, people are like, oh, the best thing about Columbia is that we're 2 hours away. No, the best thing about Columbia is that it's it's Columbia, and it's easy, affordable, relative speaking, living. There's a lot of great opportunities. We have a beautiful riverfront. We're the capital, so we have access to a lot of different resources. And we have a lot of areas of Columbia that are ripe for investment and ripe for growth. And so I think that when we say that we're almost there, we have the potential to really be, a city that is known for being more than just a college town and capital city, but actually a really cool place where people come because they like the things that it has to offer, including a James Beard winning a restaurant, right?
Yeah.
We're getting there.
Yeah.
I just don't want us to continue to be known for something relative to something else. We should be able to stand on our 2 feet on our own as like the heart of South Carolina.
No, I agree, and one of the reasons why I've chosen to do business here is because I like exactly what you said, the shallow degrees of separation. Like, it is not hard for us to get to just about anybody we want to talk to that has something to do with it. And I agree too. I don't want to be Greenville or Charleston because I don't like going to Greenville or Charleston because of the congestion and because of how difficult things are, and you just don't want to have to. We're easy here, which is something I would love to be able to maintain no matter what we get, no matter what our opportunities are. I would love for it to still be easy to do things, and I feel like we can make an impact here easier. We can make in bigger markets because we don't have so much noise that we've got to cut through, like you do in bigger markets. So I hear a lot. We had a discussion on the podcast a couple weeks ago about the idea that to people who weren't kind of born and raised here, to people who come here, it feels very inclusive and welcoming. But to people that were born here, it's not quite as it doesn't feel like that. What is your impression of that? Do you feel like it's inclusive and welcoming as a city?
That's a hard question because in some ways, yes, I've made some of the most meaningful friendships and relationships, but that took time to cultivate. I don't think it's going to happen overnight. I have actually found, and one of the reasons why I ran is because I felt that sometimes Columbia can be very cliquey, and folks that have been working together continue to work together in silos for many, many years. And that could be for any field, whether that's, bringing in small businesses or the university and, the city. It's comfortable to work in your own lane. And one of the things that I have wanted to do and continue to want to do is not make the process of engaging with the city such a black box. I really wanted to improve customer service, make city staff and, our services more accessible and easy to understand, modernize them, use technology. So one of the things that I did was we launched our first ever app. We had multiple apps in the past, but it was like an app for the water department, an app for, trash. And this is a one-stop shop where you can report the things you want to report. You get an answer immediately from someone. So there's a name in terms of, this is the person I'm contacting to get a pothole fixed on my street. So in some ways, I think that there's a lot of work to do in terms of being more accessible as a city and helping people get through the various processes that it takes in order to get something accomplished. But in terms of the people, I do think that the people here are very kind and they are welcoming to folks that are not from here. And it's very easy to get involved. And I think that's where I think the inclusiveness comes is, our neighborhoods are very rich with like social events and they do a lot of things together. The churches, these social and civic groups, it's very easy to make friends here. And I do think that gets harder as you get older, but Columbia has been an area where I've seen people of all different ages and stages to be able to find something that they really like and care about.
Yeah, and I've found that too, and I think it's less cliquey than it used to be, or it feels less cliquey than it used to be. Like, I feel like when I was, maybe because of the stage of business, when I was first getting into business, it was really hard for me to get into those circles where I feel like it's gotten easier maybe. And it's maybe just because of how long I've been doing it now, but it's, but it does feel, I guess, since we've been stepping out to try to talk to more people and get more people on the podcast and stuff.
Well, we always reference it as it's a big, small town, right? So coming from an actual small town of 2,400 people, it's cliquey because that's how small towns work.
Yeah, no, that's true.
And it's one of those things where you only feel clickiness if you want to feel clickiness, right?
Yeah.
Like I don't feel clickiness. I don't feel like I'm kept out from something.
Right.
I don't know.
Well, like you said, if you want to do it, you can,
Yeah.
if you called up anybody and said, let me volunteer for your thing, they're not going to stop you, right? It's not going to be, we've already got people, they're going to let you come in and be involved. I know one of the places that I've seen you the most is TikTok. And I think it's interesting because I don't see a lot of people in Columbia on TikTok. So talk about that, using TikTok for general, you don't really push an agenda exactly. You just talk about things and whatever is on your mind you bring up, and that guys talk about TikTok and why that.
Well, I would say, when I came on council, there were definitely colleagues of mine that felt, I wouldn't say uncomfortable, but just kind of uneasy about how active I already was on social media. They were used to things getting done, and the people that, came to the meetings at 2 p.m. on a Tuesday afternoon would know about it, but that was really it. Mm-hmm. And I think that when I ran, I was really proud of the coalition that I energized, which was a lot of millennials and independent voters that had never engaged in local elections because, frankly, they didn't understand really how important it was or what the value was or when the election was. And so it was really important for me to continue that throughout. And so I've always tried to use social media as a tool to, one, I don't even like the term politician because I don't feel like when you stereotype what a politician looks like, I look like that, right?
No, right, sure.
But I wanted it to be a tool that humanized, and you got to see that, I also have a life outside of this, and I like to have fun with my friends and do things around Columbia, but also make topics the same way that I did during COVID accessible for the everyday person to understand exactly what's happening or why it's happening. I've often seen that a lot of maybe the frustration or the pushback that we get from our constituents is just because they want to be informed. Mm-hmm. And I think whether it's the app and letting them know something's in the works, or, for example, I just recently did a TikTok talking about how the reason why half of Riverwalk is still closed is because of a federal negotiation and holdup.
I saw that one.
Yeah. And people just wanted to know, because all they're seeing is for 10 years, our Riverwalk has been closed on one side since the flood. Mm-hmm. So I've always wanted to be somewhere where people can engage, share their insight, and for me to be able to communicate. And to your point about, not pushing an agenda, it's really hard because social media incentivizes rage bait or
of course.
Sensationalizing everything. And in a time where politics is just so discouraging in some ways and people feel very jaded or disengaged, I want people to see that there are still, local elected officials that are working really hard for their community, and that not everything has to be this like culture war or fight on social media, but that we can work together and continue to make our city great.
Well, and I love how, like you're saying, local politicians, it's about what you're doing, right? And it's not quite as much about ideology and these other things as about what you're able to accomplish and mm-hmm. what you're setting out to do. So that's really cool. I guess I'm not seeing you as much on other platforms, I guess, because TikTok is a lot more about your interest versus your followers and all that stuff. So do you find other ones valuable as well?
Yeah, I have the most followers on Instagram,
right.
actually. But, I really like with TikTok, I feel like I'm talking to friends on FaceTime, mm-hmm. and I'm able to not feel the same kind of, I've been around since Instagram was, you just Instagrammed whatever was in front of you and posted it, right? I don't feel that pressure of it being, almost perfect or curated. And then on Instagram, I also have 2 accounts. One really just focused on city and campaign and updates there because there's so much going on. And then, my personal account is more kind of a little bit of my, my elected life, but also just sharing things that I love.
Yeah.
So that's been really wonderful as well. And then, of course, Facebook, when our parents took it over, I think it stayed with the parents. It's been a great way to keep in touch with family, first of all, across the world. But I have noticed that, my parents' age and older, they are very active there. So some of the groups features and the pages and some of the discourse on Facebook has been especially helpful as we're thinking about issues like short-term rentals or, when we were going through the budget and some of the kind of fights that were happening there with certain provisos that were put in the State House budget. So all of them have value and use to me in different ways. I think you just have to balance some of the noise with actual valuable feedback from your constituents. Because I will say, I posted some really memorable content from when I celebrated Diwali with Governor McMaster. And I think it ended up on the wrong side of TikTok. I have all these faceless pages saying incredibly racist things about me wearing Indian clothes in front of the State House.
Right.
And so you also have to learn like that. Sometimes you just have to log off and,
not pay attention.
Just talk to people. Yeah.
Don't feed the trolls.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think if people take that much effort to do those things, right, it's kind of sad for them, right? Because they're and that's I love Gary Vaynerchuk's position on that. It's like how you have to feel empathy for them because they've taken that much time to do those stupid things that don't mean anything, right? And so it's definitely difficult. What do you tell me in your social media stuff? What do you want to accomplish with it? What's kind of the goal of doing, kind of reaching out in this way?
Certainly
public.
Transparency and why I make the decisions or why I vote on things the way that I do. I want local government to be accessible to people that live here so that they know exactly what we cover on city council, say, versus school board or county council. And then I want, again, going back to what we talked about earlier, I want people to feel pride in the work that they elected me to do. And that is then ultimately going to turn into more momentum to continue to make changes, because change can be scary. And, try solving problems in different ways if the way that we've been doing it hasn't been working. Right. And then, of course, again, I am a proud millennial. I'm a mom. I have a really great group of friends. I also want people to see, I'm also a normal human being that is just like them and probably dealing with some of the same challenges in my 30s and in motherhood that they probably are facing too, just with an added interesting layer of being an elected official.
Yeah. Well, we did a at-large city council commercial for somebody who was running 2 years ago. And was sent your commercial as an example.
Nice.
so it's surreal, when you go, oh, okay, this is interesting.
It is still so there is an election coming up this November.
Right.
The mayor, myself, and 2 district seats are up for re-election. It is always just really, I'm learning as I go. It's my first time being an incumbent. It's really interesting to see how you end up being the model, and it's like, I was brand new to this. I was figuring it out as I went. I didn't even know how to hire a campaign manager. I didn't have one, actually, the first time around. I did it all myself.
Right.
So
is it a 4-year term?
It's a 4-year term.
Okay.
And we're always off year. And so that's why I always tell people, pay attention. I know everybody is still coming off the presidential, and, there's been a lot of activity in the Trump administration, but there are a lot of seats coming up right now in November that probably are going to affect your life more than the midterms. Not to say those aren't important, but also care about, your local seats.
How many, I feel like when we were talking to that mayoral candidate a couple years ago, there's only 6,000 votes that come through. How many votes are actually counted for your election that's coming up? Typically, how many votes are actually the total?
Yeah, well, I don't know. The total can change. The denominator changes based on turnout, and there's lots of factors. My first time running, because it was also the first mayor to change over in 12 years, you saw a slightly higher turnout because that's a big deal, right? So I think it was about a 10% turnout, which is still, that's about 10, 11,000 people. That's still not as high as it can be. And I think that's one of the ways to change that is to shed light on how important it is. But yeah, it's typically anywhere from 6 to 10% turnout.
Right. So if it's 6,000 to 10,000 votes, there's a margin there that you could really take advantage of if you can just get people to show up.
Or you just figure out who those 10,000 people are going to are going to be.
But even if it's an average of 10,000, but you're able to bring in an extra 1,000 people that normally wouldn't vote, would swing it your direction.
Yeah.
Because it's just not enough numbers. If you can get any group of people, like one school worth of families, come vote for me.
Right. Well, and that's an interesting thing about local elections, right? Is that it has so much to do with your relationships with people, where even midterms are going to be so much more about name recognition and branding than yours, which would be about, do they know what you're doing? Do they know of you? Are they,
Yeah, unfortunately, we'd probably vote for you, but we can't.
Yeah. So we don't, neither of us live in, right? You're not in the city of Columbia.
Forest Acres.
You're Forest Acres. I'm Irmo. So,
Oh, well, come live in the city. We have some great things going on.
Listen,
I can move a street over.
If I go anywhere outside of the area, I tell people I live in Columbia because there's no use in explaining that I'm in Irmo and what does that even mean.
And that's typically my argument when people get stuck on the terms and vernaculars when we're trying to sell the city. They'll say, "Oh, the Midlands region," or Mid Carolina, or the Greater Columbia area. I'm like, no one cares. Go with the umbrella of Columbia.
Yeah.
It's the capital. And I get why people are kind of like hesitant, because maybe there's some like hangover from, previous feuds. But at the end of the day, having a collective voice benefits everyone. When you have Scout Motors coming to Blythewood, I still say that's a huge win for us, because I want people to reverse commute.
Yeah.
And leave the city and drive out to Blythewood. And, we're going to see the residual benefits of that. And so, a lot of the conversations that I've been having has really been kind of pushing us to change the way that we think about being so separate about things and really operating as more kind of like one big entity. Now, that is maybe sometimes wishful thinking, considering all the politics and local jurisdictions involved. But I will say that we're starting to trend in the right way, because you're starting to see the benefit of people seeing the bigger picture of like, when Columbia succeeds, we all succeed.
What are some of the tactics you're using to kind of change that narrative? Because we just had a couple on our podcast that refers to themselves as people from Lexington and doesn't, embrace that like people who live in Lexington are essentially, they live in Columbia, but they don't embrace that Columbia name.
Well, some of that predates me and predates maybe even you, just generations
Oh,
of
sure.
change, and also kind of the political demographics, Columbia being more of a Democratic, I guess, like city, and Lexington being typically one of the most conservative counties that we have in South Carolina. So some of that I think will always be there. But I do believe, when I ran the first time, I called myself a political outsider. And I meant that because there's no preconceived notion of like where I fit. So I built my own circles, both Democrats and Republicans, that cared about doing things differently and moving Columbia forward. And so some of that was also just relationship building. When I passed my first ever ordinance around reporting a lost or stolen firearm, I called our AG. And he said, this is the first time I've had a council member call me before, they start the process of trying to pass this law. And that was kind of those small things that started to change in terms of, okay, yeah, I will give her a call if I think that something may be unconstitutional, or I have questions about how this ordinance plays out or something like that. So a lot of it is relationship building. I think a lot of it is also kind of, helping change the perception that it's a new group of people and we want to work with you. And I'm starting to see that in terms of at least some of our local coalitions wanting to come together and work together a little bit better. But it takes time. And there are always going to be people that, for whatever reason, don't necessarily want to associate their identity with Columbia. But I think that in the long run is going to be a disservice to them, because we are headed very much in the right direction in terms of being known for all of the good things. I'm not going to ignore some of the bad things that have happened in the past, or some of the things that people haven't been happy with. But, that is part of our history. And now it's time to kind of move forward and learn from that and do better.
And we have to have optimism too, to be able to do it. Tell me what's something that you're excited about that's happening. What is something that you're excited about that we're moving on?
Oh, there's so many exciting things. I try to focus on, because there are times I get discouraged as well. One of my favorite council members that unfortunately passed away a year into his term was Joe Taylor. He was our previous Secretary of Commerce. On paper, we could not be more different. Like, I was like, I'm never going to be friends with this guy. Like, he seems intense. We ended up becoming really good friends because we came from very informed perspectives. And what he said to me was, Aditi, when you get frustrated, focus on the small wins, go to sleep and try again, because solving problems is fun. So I try to think about like small things that have made a huge difference. So I think about the fact that we have fully funded Finley Park, which was left to the wayside for so long, and it's on track to open in November.
Oh, good. That was going to be my question. When is the park opening?
Cool.
Yeah, in November. That's like a bigger thing, right? I helped secure $22 million for the William Street extension, which is going to be a game changer, as we're working with the family that owns a lot of the riverfront to develop that and make that another amazing potential park, right? I think about the wins around homelessness and housing over 100 people that have gone through our rapid shelter program. Does it mean we've solved the problem? No, but we've at least created another service, especially for folks that you typically see on the street the most that aren't eligible for all these other things that are going on. I think about kind of the 50 plus ribbon cuttings we've already had, or I saw a statistic recently, because I'm being a data person, on average 28 people are moving to Columbia daily. That's really, really exciting.
Yeah, we're getting on a lot of lists of people that, places that people move.
I just need one more family.
Yeah. So those are some of the things I'm really proud of. And some of the things that I'm proud of, you don't see, because it's more of those like internal things, like, making sure the morale of our staff is high, right? After COVID, we saw and lost a lot of law enforcement, giving them the raises that they deserved, creating a merit-based system that kept some of our good officers here and our good firefighters here by making sure they had equipment and a second set of bunker gear. Like, those are all things I think have contributed to the general atmosphere of the city.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I see it, again, I always have that feeling of being almost there. And I feel like every time we talk about it, we're almost there. We can see it. I'm really looking forward to Finley Park opening back up, because we used to take the kids to Finley Park all the time, and then we didn't, for a very long time, just because it wasn't a very good place to take your kids to the playground. And so I'm excited about it opening back up,
And it's not just opening. Sorry to interrupt.
So my question about that is, what is the plan for the homeless that had taken over previously? Because did we just spend a bunch of money to remodel their home, or is there a plan to keep them out?
And I think you read my mind, because I was going to say, it's not just about opening the park, right? You could invest $20+ million that we're investing in it and then still go back to square one in terms of some of the issues we saw. So we are learning, and we have a really great architect. This is like his legacy project in the Parks and Recreation Department. But he and I talked a little bit, and we're learning a lot from models like, some of Savannah's public parks or Central Park. And the term that they use in the Parks and Recreation world is activation. We will need 24/7 activation. So we have budgeted in several $100,000 extra this past year to hire staff specific to Parks and Rec always having somebody at Finley Park 24 hours a day. And that activation is going to, and they've seen it happen in other cities, lead to it not being seen as kind of like, oh, I can do whatever I want here, right? Because we want, folks that work night shift to be able to go on a run and feel safe. So there's some of that. And then we have some cool things happening as well. Maybe some horses. And mounted police may be coming as well to help patrol. Nice. So we are looking at very creative ways. That being said, the larger issue looms, which is that there is a very hard to reach population of homeless folks that typically are the ones that are also engaged in illegal activity and are also typically the ones that are refusing help. What do we do with that? And I think that, we've re-upped our ad hoc homelessness committee because we're looking at other ways, because the services are there. There's multiple ways in which you can engage in services, rapid shelter, transitions, Oliver Gospel. We also have several faith-based churches providing food. They could be working better together. Yes, there's always room for that. But I think there's still going to be that population of people that don't want to do that. And they just want to engage in illegal activity on the street. And I think that that's where, Chief Holbrook and I, and even Sheriff Leon Lott and I have talked about, then maybe, we have to be stern. You have rules that you have to follow. And if you're not going to follow them, the same way that if you or I went into a store and stole something, there's consequences, there's going to be consequences. And so that's and that has been a huge ideological shift for our law enforcement too, which they didn't maybe necessarily do that in the past. And so that's kind of the direction that we're going. And we're also very open to figuring out, do we need to shift some of our services in a way that makes more sense and they're more aligned with where some of the state services are? We're collecting a lot of data about where people that are homeless are coming from. And there's no secret that there are other cities and frankly other states that often send their unhoused people to Columbia. Right. How do we stop that? How do we change the funding structure where right now the federal government funds 13 counties within Columbia's funding. So if you walk into transitions, it'll say we proudly serve, 13 counties. So does that mean that that my taxpayers are taking on the burden of Rock Hill and Abbeville as well? Probably.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of those larger things as well, but know that we're trying to take a more, I think, bold approach to providing services, but also if you're not going to take advantage of our services and the beds available, and you're going to continue to engage in things that are illegal, then there's going to be consequences.
Well, and we do a lot of work with United Way, doing videos for them and stuff, and United Way talks about the fact that the services are there. Like if people want food, they can find food. If they want a place to sleep, they can find a place to sleep. And it's a challenging thing to do. You've gotta keep the humanity in mind. You gotta be kind to people, but also there's a balance that you have to strike with providing those services, but then also, keeping people safe, and that's a challenge. And that was why we stopped going to Findlay Park, was because they would yell at my kids. We'd be down there and they would be talking to my kids, and it was scary, Now we're from Irma. We don't run into this. It's not, we're fish out of water, definitely, but it's hopefully it's better, with the new facility. And I feel like that will make a huge difference. I go on a bike ride every Tuesday that we go through that little area, and I've seen through the fences. I'm like, wow, this looks really cool. Like, I can't wait till it opens.
It was like 100 degrees, but I did it for them because I was very excited, and one of the key champions for the protected bike lanes on South Main. We did it on a Sunday. I sweat through my shirt, but we did the whole 5 mile.
Yep.
It was really cool to see everything connect. And those are actually the first protected bike lanes in the whole state. So thanks Seth Rose for that, who advocated for that funding for us at the state to make that happen.
He's on our ride, and he talks about it all the time.
Okay,
good. And we took our route through there a month or so ago. But when it first opened, whenever it was. And it is very exciting. And as a cyclist, that's one of the things that I would love to see in Columbia is more protected bike lanes, more of that ability to be bikeable.
I love that too. What people don't know is a lot of Columbia's roads are owned by the state. They are state DOT roads. Very few of the major thoroughfares are city owned. And while we have certain kind of jurisdiction through our relationship with SCDOT, a lot of these major changes require their kind of buy-in and advocacy as well. And that has often been hard, also because they are managing large highways as well, like Malfunction Junction. And so, for example, Gervais Street is technically a highway, and then you're competing for funds while they're trying to expand 26 down to Charleston.
Right.
So, talking with Representative Rose as well, one of the biggest deterrents has been kind of the layers of kind of governments that are involved, but also the fact that we're competing for funding, and on average, one block takes $1 million.
Wow.
So that project being, a couple of blocks was very easily was that price tag because of how expensive it is to cable underground. Now, do I think it's worth it? Yes. I want to be able to drive into Elmwood, which is a major gateway, and see everything cabled underground. See sidewalks that are wide enough where you're not almost on the road, and it just give a better first impression. But it's going to take federal and state funding to make that happen.
Well, and I heard somebody that was in infrastructure. I don't remember exactly who it was. I think I was it was somebody like the Riverkeeper was one of those people. Talked about Malfunction Junction being made in the 50s, and they had no concept that there would ever be 150,000 people that lived in the area. So they just made it like other area. Atlanta had a ribbon. Whatever, and so we just made it like Atlanta, and we thought it would be fine. Yeah. And now, oops, here we are, all these years later, 70 years later, and, it's an obstruction. But it's already this Colonial Life Boulevard exit has changed everything about this simple ease of getting in and out, and so I love changes like that are giant, but I love what you're saying about small changes make a huge difference too. Yeah. Do you know so I know that the Riverwalk that is the expansion of the Riverwalk is probably another one of those that's like multi-jurisdictional. That's something I'm really excited about because we go to the Riverwalk a lot.
So for that, the funding has been secured. It's just getting all the permits, zoning, all of that, and we're that is underway. And then of course there's always a long process I've learned in terms of procurement, which we're not involved in, and getting the right kind of contractors on board and all of that. So that is in the works. Mm-hmm. The hardest part of getting the dollars together has already happened. And then our friends over in West Columbia are building a really cool bridge that will connect that Riverwalk as well. I think the connectivity and the access to the river has been underutilized for decades. So I'm very, very excited about one day being able to drive or bike. I guess you're driving if it's an electric bike, but bike from the dam all the way downtown.
Well, I just think it would be very cool for us to be able to go to Saluda Shoals and park at Saluda Shoals and ride into town and have lunch and then ride back. We do that at Timmerman now. But it's closed again, so that path a lot. Is closed. So that's probably a detractor to any development on the river is the amount that it floods.
Yeah.
Right? But we park at Timmerman and ride into town, and we'll go to Savage Craft or D's Wings and have lunch and then ride back. It's a great day. It's very similar to what you can do with Swamp Rabbit. So this is why people love going to Greenville, is because you can start downtown, you can go out to Travelers Rest and have ice cream and then come back. And it's a great day. So. Are y'all involved in the food court that's going in Bull Street? Is that city or is that something else?
I mean, Bull Street is very much a project of the city. Most of it, of course, all the deals and that happening was in the previous mayoral administration and previous council. But seeing it come to fruition is very much the city, and it's been great to see Gather come together. We don't choose the folks that are going in there, the Hughes team that is kind of managing all of Bull Street is doing that. But of course, we welcome them with open arms when they do decide to come. And
really
we're
exciting.
very excited to start seeing, a lot of different local businesses as well have interest in that food hall. Now, what I'd like to see is the housing that's already been built there start to fill up. Mm-hmm. And we are breaking ground, of course, really soon, we meaning USC, on the medical school and some of the medical facilities. So hoping that will also attract a lot of folks to start living there as well, so it feels a little bit more residential.
Well, we did a story for USC about that, about the groundbreaking, and interviewed the folks in charge over there. That's all really, really cool. As a citizen, I'm very excited about the food hall because I love going to those places. And
as a foodie,
as somebody who loves food, I love the idea that you could walk into a place and have 6 or 8 choices of style of food that you can have. And I love seeing that trend develop in bigger cities, and I'm glad we're finally getting it here.
Without the lack of a mall, you got to find it somewhere.
Well, we got a mall. Columbian is a mall,
Food courts.
Oh, yeah.
It's essentially a food court without the mall.
Right.
Or you can go to my Food Truck Fridays. We have it every Friday at Bull Street right now, where we have 4 or 5 trucks that always sign up and they line up. And now we're looking at potentially doing a night market to support this, because we have, we were all in college once when we get a little hungry late at night. Yep. So that's another option. And I love that Food Truck Fridays has given a lot of the kind of newer culinary talent an opportunity to get their name out, because they may not have the capital yet for a storefront.
Yep.
So, but yes, Gather's going to be great.
That's what a food hall will do too, is that, if you don't have the capital for a whole restaurant, you can get your concept started and get the momentum going, mm-hmm. And I did not know about Food Truck Friday. So
yeah, 11 to 3
that's
every
very
Friday.
Exciting.
And you can look at our social media as to what trucks will be there. And then stay tuned. We're going to hopefully expand it as interest grows.
Very cool. Yeah, well, I will definitely get on to that. Well, it has been really good having you on.
Thank you for having me.
I appreciate you finally being able to make it. I know you're very busy. So we always end the podcast with your 5 favorite things, and we're going to give them to you randomly.
Okay.
So here we go. We never planned this ahead of time, but this is how we're going to do it. Favorite movie?
Oh, that's hard. The Namesake.
Oh, I don't know that one.
It's good.
Tell me about The Namesake.
It's based on a book by Mira Nair,
Uh-huh.
and it's about just your identity as a person that's born and raised here, but your parents are not from here. It's very well done. I always get emotional and want to hug my parents when I
Interesting.
won
I'll have to
won
look
a
that
lot
up.
of indie music or indie film.
Okay.
awards.
Very good. I like it. Favorite song or favorite music, favorite band,
I
music
like-
that you listen to?
I like so many different things depending on if I'm working out or not. I guess I would say I'm not a local one. Toro y Moi. I like that.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Torre Moi is awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. That's old school. All right. Good.
Favorite go-to spot to eat in Columbia?
Koa.
Really?
Koa.
Koa.
Yeah.
Their mezcal
Yeah.
is so good, and every single person I've brought there, they always find something they love.
And honestly, it's the closest to eating food in Mexico that you can get without going to Mexico. It's like you realize how much cheese and junk that Mexican restaurants put into stuff, and it's so good. I agree. I haven't been in too long. I
Yeah,
need to go back.
It's been a while.
Yeah. I have my anniversary coming up. I might go to Koa for the anniversary. All right.
Favorite book or author?
Favorite book. I think it would probably be Cutting for Stone by Abraham Verghese. Really, really good book about ethics and the Hippocratic Oath, and then, growing up in Ethiopia. I've never been to Ethiopia, but the way that he describes it is just incredible.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
It's getting new answers, which is really cool. I like it.
Yeah.
And that's four.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
4.
four.
That's four.
Last one.
Last one. Favorite season.
Fall. I was born on Halloween. I liked pumpkin before it was cool.
Okay.
So I'm very much looking forward to the leaves changing and all of the things that come with fall.
Nice.
Cool.
Are you watching Wednesday?
I am.
Yeah. That's
I am.
It's a mainstay in my house. I have a teenager, so we had to watch Wednesday.
We're watching a lot of Miss Rachel in my house, and she has 2 Halloween episodes we watch on repeat.
Nice.
So hopefully, my son will understand it a little bit more this year.
Very, very good. Well, thank you so much for being on. This has been a great conversation.
Thank you so much.